2. We are live.
And welcome to episode 22 of the podcast, How Do You Know That, with Robert Hollis. We are so glad to have you with us today. Now, before we get things going, if you are watching us on YouTube, please hit the like and share buttons, as well as subscribe button to subscribe to our YouTube channel. And if you are listening to us elsewhere in the podcast universe, please also like and share this with friends and help us spread the word. Also, if you would like to join our exclusive community, the Inner Circle, you can join us by going to roberthollis.com/join to register. There will be lots of great exclusive content, and you'll be able to participate in our special breakthrough sessions to help you move to the next level. Today is episode 22 of How Do You Know That with Robert Hollis. And our topic, very good one here today, getting out of your comfort zone. Now, allow me to introduce our host of today's show. He is an entrepreneurial evangelist renowned for his incredible achievements. He is also known for inspiring countless of individuals around the globe with his unwavering determination and spirit. And he has also helped 67 people as of this date become millionaires. Now, known as a mentor, GPS to success, and a dear friend, ladies and gentlemen, Robert Hollis.
Craig, again, thank you so much. The hostess with the mostess. No better MC on the planet without a doubt. And thank you, Matthew. The visionaries are here live again to give you another incredible podcast. And I really love this subject. I really love this subject because getting out of your comfort zone really more to me is about not only priorities. So when people say they don't have any time, I just tell them to mentally say to themselves that this isn't important to me. So with that, and not having a vision inspires success in others now, without being excited and emotionally engaged with the new life that you're going to have for you and your family, it's impossible to step out of your comfort zone. It's impossible. So there's not a person that watches this live or recorded that doesn't get up every day and mentally think and feel like, I just don't want to do it today. If we always go by how we feel, right? How we feel, why would anybody want to do anything? All right. So to move into out of our comfort zone, there's got to be something worth it. It's got to be worth it. And one of the things that I've seen in life is that's why testimonials are so important. You can't have a testimony unless you have a test. And so it's listening to other people's testimonials about their lifestyle and the money that they've given to orphans and all this stuff that they've done that they made an impact for them and their family, traveled the world, lived in some amazing places, and just, actually create moments that take our breath away. So there's nothing that gives me more joy than watching another human being have an aha moment and all of a sudden light up because now they feel like moving forward is worth it. All right. So once that happens, that's pretty incredible. But now stepping into that uncomfortable place and staying there for a consistent amount of time, that is a whole different thing. And what I find remarkable about human beings is how resilient we are. I think that everyone that watches this video can tell stories of, maybe when they're young that they had to move to a place, that they didn't have friends, a new school, a new city. There's this constant thing where we don't have a choice of going to the uncomfortable. And guess what? If you're watching this video live or recorded, you pulled it off. You pulled it off. You're a winner. A lot of us at times in our lives have been lonely. And some of us now have been married or with the same person for over 40 years. You pulled it off. Some of us have been unemployed with no money. We got a job. We didn't know what the job was. We didn't know what it detailed. We learned how to do our job. And isn't it funny that through life is like a roller coaster? It's just when you're focused on being an entrepreneur or adding something else to that list, it just makes the ride more crazier. See, life goes ups and downs, ups and downs, ups and downs, pain and pleasure, pain and pleasure, pain and pleasure. It's when we add something else to it, like learning a new language or being an entrepreneur or getting in a new relationship. Now all of a sudden it changes everything. It changes the dynamic to everything because you got one thing called your personal life that's on a roller coaster, and then you got your relationship life, and then you got your occupation life, and then now you're adding entrepreneurship on it. It's like it doesn't make the roller coaster any bigger or less exciting and oh excited and oh my god I think I'm going to die. It's just that you're layering other layers of of um, roller coasters. You know, I remember the first time that Matt and Hannah decided that they were going to get a pet. It's this classic thing always. It's like, wow, getting a dog, that's no problem. You know what I mean? Then you get the dog and it's like, I didn't know about all this stuff. You know what I mean? There's a lot of other stuff. You know, Matt told us a story recently where Rue broke his harness and he's running traffic in Irvine. You know, and Matt's got to track him down. And it's like that's probably uncomfortable, but he probably mentally thought it would be more uncomfortable if Rue got hit and died.
Yeah,
So
I was just thinking about saving her at that
sometimes,
point
you
and
know,
how much
go ahead.
better shape I need to be in. That 8-month-old corgi puppy is quite fast. You know, they're herding dogs, so it's funny. All I needed to catch her is just to have a group of. Speaking of, they're back there fighting.
Yeah.
But I just
Yeah,
need to have a
Matt,
group of
go
kids
ahead
that
and
she
go
could herd.
into it because it's like I definitely
Oh
would.
yeah, I mean, any situation where you like push outside your comfort zone, right? Like I've grown up with dogs. I love dogs. Um, Never had a dog of my own. So my dogs now, I love them and care about them so much. But Rue, she's still not even a year old yet. So it's her on her back right there. But she's the one that got away. I had like a harness on her, right? And she does this thing because we're training her to walk correctly instead of pulling, right? And this is something you have to do with most puppies because they just want to run, right? So they'll like run in place and just be yanking you. So she's been testing that and we've been keeping her close and practicing. Well, one of these times she goes all out in a sprint with the harness on. And just as she hits the end of the leash, the harness snaps off of her and she just keeps going.
Oh.
And so, you know, this was some Amazon harness that we got for her because she's constantly growing, right? It was pretty, but apparently it sucked. So the harness broke and Rue, she's just gone, right? She doesn't care. Milo's behind me, my our 3-year-old corgi. And I could just drop the leash right there and I'm like, Milo, stay. And I just run after her, right? And so I'm running. And if you know anything about corgis, the dogs themselves are like, they're herding dogs, right? They're normally used to herd sheep, things like that. They have like infinite energy. Even though they have small legs, they're very fast. But the thing about them is if they see somebody or a group of something, it's like instinctually in them, like a group of dogs to run over and like try to herd them, even as a puppy, right? So I'm running and chasing after her going, please, like no cars drive by, no traffic. And she's just like in an all out sprint, right? So I'm exhausted because I work at the computer 90% of the time. So like I'm out of shape. Anyway, I'm running, right, chasing her. And I see this group of kids playing soccer. And I'm like, could you help me catch this dog? And I knew from the moment that they started to run and she saw them playing with the soccer ball, that she'd be over at that. She'd go see them, right?
Yeah.
And that's what ended up happening, which thank God that was the end of it. But it was one of those situations where if I would have had more self-awareness, I guess, and this is like comfort zone is kind of it fits into doing the same routine, right? If I would have had more awareness when I put the harness on her to notice that it was breaking, that it wasn't holding well, which now I test their collars and harnesses before I leave, something I'll probably do for the rest of my life. I would have known that there was an issue with it and I would have been able to resolve it right there, but I was just so on autopilot that I just did it anyway, right? So then I was kind of forced out of my comfort zone because I'm chasing after I'd never had to do this before, right? So I'm chasing after this dog like screaming, right? So everybody else, it's like a spectacle because everyone's watching me, a grown man, chase after this small puppy that's like in an all-out sprint having the time of her life, right? She doesn't know what's going on. And that's just so her. So it was a lot, but at the same time, it's like one of those moments I'm sure I'll have as a father later in life too, where it's like, okay, that was a moment where you learn to pay more attention to what they're doing. So, but yeah, that's the story.
Yeah. It was a good thought, you know what I mean? That I know that, it's pretty interesting that I always look at people and I just say, listen, you're more of a winner than you realize you are. And all you got to do is go back to things that seem to be the phrase making a mountain out of a molehill. That the things that we thought were just so uncomfortable and we had no choice but to do it. And on the other side, you go, wasn't that big of a deal. So that going with the video that I did today that Matt put together for, fear of failure, it's like, it's pretty interesting because I love being out of my comfort zone. That's where I really truly believe for me personally, that I'm not living if I'm not consistently doing things that make me feel uncomfortable.
Do you normally like when you say getting out of your comfort zone, do you get antsy until you do that again? Like, is there
Yeah,
an aspect of you where you're like, I'm too comfortable right now?
yeah.
Like life, is it more of like a fear that uncomfortability will disappear, or you actually like the uncomfortability so much that
I
you
now
tend to
like
seek it out?
I love the uncomfortability. Craig can find this. I know he's great at finding this. I believe it was Mario Andretti that said, if you ever feel comfortable on a racetrack, you're not going fast enough.
Well, I know you are
Oh, I
from that
believe
world.
that. Absolutely. I mean, it's a I mean, Meladee kind of put it great before we started here, is the best growth comes from getting uncomfortable.
Yeah.
Meladee Ryba. And it really is. And we have to continually do that in order to get to the next level.
Yeah.
And you definitely promote that always, Robert. And yeah, it's in many cases it's not easy because a lot of people, okay, I know you just said that this is where you like to be, but a lot of people aren't.
No.
And it's not easy for those people who get that comfortable job and they do the 40 routine.
Yeah.
If you're not familiar, work 40 years. What is it?
40 hours, 40 years.
40 hours for 40 years and retire at 40% of what your salary was.
Yeah, I was wondering. I couldn't remember what the last part was.
Thank you. I remember that. Yeah, the 40 rule. And do you want to do that? I mean, yes, there are some positions, there are some jobs that, okay, it's worth getting vested, I guess would be a good word. But is it worth it to your soul? Is it worth it to your mental facilities? Is
Well,
it,
Craig, you personally, like I said, fear of failure. I know they say the number one fear used to be.
Mhm.
Matt can do an AI check on this. Like I used to think that
I will.
90% of the people were not sales type, or 95, and I find out that that's like 17 or 18% of people love sales. But was saying that, I know getting in front of people performing, being an actor, you constantly hear the number one reason that people don't sing, reason that people don't, play an instrument is, again, that whole concept that if I get in front of other people, I could mess up. And this
Oh,
again,
yeah.
and this could be humiliating. I could forget my lines. I could forget my spot. I could play the wrong, a note, while everybody else is playing the right note. It's this constant thing of, and seeing people overcome things that they said that because I was thinking about me connecting with strangers, even though I'm unconscious competent and been doing it for 37 years, that's still uncomfortable for me. What do I mean uncomfortable? It's easier not to do than it is to do. So I haven't heard that one in a long time. It's like people constantly are always asking, well, why do people fail? Why don't people, why won't people do it? Because as easy as it is to do, it's easier not to do.
Not to do. Exactly.
Yeah,
exactly.
no, I mean, yeah, nowadays too, you have to, like I'm the person on the podcast most of the time where I'm like here's what I think scientifically or from the knowledge that I know, because I lean a lot more on some of those things myself, right? And I did look up, I asked ChatGPT what the top 10 human fears are nowadays.
Oh,
Dying's number 1, failure's number 2, rejection number 3, loss of control 4, physical harm 5, illness 6, public speaking 7th, social situations 8. So believe it or not, at this point, social situations is just below public speaking. Like it says in here,
which in a sense are the
social
same, one and the
anxiety,
same,
right?
almost. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, if you have social anxiety, odds are public speaking is not in your repertoire at that current moment. But what's so interesting is that as human beings, when you think about these things in the past, fears of failure, these things have been extrapolated quite a bit by social media and by the internet, right? Because before, maybe Timmy went on to play college football and he was the biggest success from your city, right? Now you're competing against every human being that has an internet connection, right? And you're going, wow, I really am not doing well in my life. Look, this person's 24. Look at what they've accomplished. And so we have this huge thing of fear of failure, but also fear of success. And that obviously stops us from getting out of our comfort zone in so many ways. And I think it comes down to like a massive amount of lack of self-awareness. I think Meladee said it in here too as one of the principles of it, getting healthier in general. But self-awareness is one of the most important things in my life to overcoming getting out of my comfort zone. If I'm aware of the situation, if I'm self-aware of where I am in the situation, if I'm aware of others in the situation, I tend to be a lot more okay with what's going on.
Right.
Instead of thinking in the what if, like the fear of failure, success, the fear of what that will feel like, I just allow myself to like process it, but in a very like basic way, instead of putting all of my emotions into it, which I used to do. Every time I'd step out of the comfort zone, there'd be so much emotion with it. And now as I've gotten older, I'm like, that only needs to exist in some emotional situations. But if it's to do with like me getting on video and doing something or public speaking or doing any of those types of things, I'm just thinking about it logically. I'm here to deliver some information that I find very valuable to you guys, and it's valuable to me. So that's why I want to share it. And I'm not going to let anything really get in the way of that as much, because it's very logic based at this point. I don't really fear if you guys think that I'm stupid for what I'm saying, because that's just your opinion, right? That what I'm saying is not smart, but also at the same time, I don't think it is, right? Like I don't put myself on such a high pedestal that I need to constantly be told that, right? So I'm okay with being outside of my comfort zone in that way. And I would say to practice that if you can. I'm not an expert at it, but like the more I practice it, the better I become. So that's what it's been for me. And Dad, it's interesting that you say that you enjoy it, because I found now enjoying it a lot more than I used to.
Cool.
Is it
Right?
because of what we're doing right here, Matt?
No, I mean, I think it's not necessarily the podcast. It's more so like over the last couple of years, I've become a lot more confident in just being who I am, like not
Okay.
really needing to have, and maybe this is why I'm more okay with getting out of my comfort zone. I think that's the point I'm getting to, but it's really just like this massive growth in me understanding who I am in the world and my purpose, and less importance on needing to be so important to everybody else.
Yeah.
Right? Like I now am important enough to myself to matter in what I'm doing in my life, and so therefore my successes are my own, and the people that are rewarded by some of the things that I share or enjoy it, that's great, because you guys teach me things all the time. Like I always say, it's good to be an observer too. So for me, I don't know, the fear of failure is still existent, but the comfort zone aspect has gotten a lot better. So
Would you say that's because you are confident in who you are and what you believe in?
I think when I was like 16, 18, I felt that way. I was confident
Okay.
in who I was and what I believed in enough to talk to adults even about my thoughts and my ideas or debate them on it. I think it's just more so that I don't need to be in control, and that's such a large part of comfort zone too. Is that
Mhm.
like the biggest aspect of my life that has changed the most is that I have a massive amount of leeway and control now, that I just do not need to have. If this podcast was 5 minutes late, it's 5 minutes late.
Yeah.
Now we're trying to get here at the perfect time. We're always trying to start it, and I am always respectful of other people's time. I tend to try to be an early person. On the other hand, it's not an end of the world, and there's no reason to bully the people that are late or doing whatever, because it's just a thing. Like it's not the significance of these things is just, we add so much importance to things because we feel so important, and we feel like mocked or shamed or upset by the slight of other people, when the reality is we're letting them do that to us, right?
Yeah.
So
The other point that you said there, Matt, that was really powerful is, and I don't know where else we can learn and develop who we are as a human being without getting out of our comfort zone. I'm sure there's some people that are way smarter than I, that could give me scenarios and cases that people actually expanded who they are. You know, they say once the mind expands. And one of the biggest ones that I've shared with my sons all my life is, and you hear people say it, but you don't know that you don't know. It's like one of those things, if a person's never had sex, do they miss it? And you know what I mean? They might be curious. You might be curious of what it is, but unless you experience. So the one that I've heard all the time is, of course, travel. And when
Mhm.
you really go through all the steps of what it takes to travel to another country or a third world country, you know,
mm,
and you think about all the stuff you got to go through, the more third world it is, the more resistance you get from everyone and everything.
yeah.
You know, it's like my mind, hey, I can just jump on an airplane and go someplace. And then I say, well, I'm going to go to Nigeria. And, the government, Nigerian government, our government, is like, no, you just don't jump on an airplane and come here. We got a list of stuff that you need to go through. And I found out that, I still don't have my visa.
Hmm.
And I found out that I guess the United States put a lot of restrictions on people coming from Nigeria to here to get their visa. And so Nigeria just said, well, golden rule, If that's the way you're going to treat us, that's the way we're going to treat you. So I found out that I gotta fly to another city to get in an interview with someone to get my visa, and the stuff that I have to have listed when I sit down with them. They go, if you show up at this appointment without all these things, you're just not getting your visa. So I got to get a letter from someone saying that they're going to pick me up at the airport. Isn't that crazy?
Oh, wow.
I got to get a letter from someone that's inviting me, because as an American, they don't want me taking public transportation.
Well, it's got to be like
Okay.
a problem for them.
Yeah.
Because
So you
if
think
something
about
did
that.
happen
It's
to
like,
you,
you
right.
can show up at any other country and go, let me get an Uber, let me get a taxi. In third world countries, you get picked up by a taxi and you disappear.
I remember that going over to the Philippines in one area, the cab driver said, get down.
Yeah.
As they were driving through this shanty town where, I mean, even the gentleman that I know, who went with me, was like, yeah, I'm getting down too.
And he's a Filipino.
And he's a Filipino. Exactly. It was a unique experience, because you think, okay, I'm going to Manila. Well, you get off the airport, you turn right, you go into Manila, no problem. You turn left and you go into this area that is literally, it goes over a bridge, and the next place to turn around, except for where we did, is like about 3 or 4 miles down the road. And it's dark going that way.
It was
so
crazy.
he goes, get down. We're going through an area. I'm going to turn around, and you literally go under this big bridge, and there is a shanty town there. And he says, just get down below the level of the seats, below the level of the door.
Imagine, what would we have, like 60 people on that bus?
Yeah. Well, but this was just a taxi with he and I. But anybody who, goes into these areas, and even then he was saying that there is one area in the Philippines, one of the islands, where unless you're from there, you do not want to go.
Yeah, we definitely went to way out of your comfort zone.
Yes. Yes.
It's like, because I think that's pretty interesting, because there are people that live there, and there are people that feel comfortable there. You know what I mean? So virtually every situation that we could say that's uncomfortable or that's something I wouldn't do, I would never, ever travel to a third world country and worry about this stuff. Well, Matt started out at the beginning talking about this. Is one of the things is just to grow and be aware.
Yes.
So I know when I've gone to Colombia and Peru and El Salvador, Ecuador, I was aware enough, or there were people that were aware enough in that area to make sure that I consistently was comfortable. Even if I was in an uncomfortable situation, it's like, what are we doing? And it's like, oh, you don't stop at intersections here. What?
Right.
2 or 3 cars are running in front of me, probably similar to what, a president has. And it's like, so the 2 cars run up, and it's just like a funeral. They go up, pull into the intersection, stop the intersection, and people are honking at them so that the next vehicle can come up, go around the corner, and we can follow them. Then they pull out the intersection and go behind me. And it's like, oh, we can't get pinned in on an intersection. And I'm going like, why are we here? Don't worry. You're going to be safe. You paid enough for security to the people that would have kidnapped you. So they don't need to kidnap you.
Right.
You've already, in a sense, you've already paid your ransom. So it's good.
Yeah, I did. I paid my ransom up front.
But let me ask you something, Robert, and even Matt. I mean, Robert in particular, when you were thinking of going to these countries, you said you didn't feel like it was a big deal. But
No.
when you got there and were told of this, did you feel like you were in your comfort zone or out of your comfort zone? And
I just have, I guess there's one of the thing that's probably uncomfortable for a lot of people, as we talked about. One of the fears of things that you have to go through is actually death. You know what I
It's number
mean?
one.
Yep.
Yeah.
So me personally, I've worked on myself where I know this might make people feel uncomfortable, and we're talking about getting you out of your uncomfortable zone, right?
Mhm.
I am 100% okay that if I died right now or die at any time in the future, I'm okay. I don't have any fear of death at all. And so I sort of trick myself. And if I trick myself and I do end up dying, I'm still okay. So in my mind, I have visually seen myself, in my hundreds.
Okay.
And so Bob Proctor did. Bob Proctor said, that he already put a deposit on a party for his 100th birthday party in Las Vegas. He had already planned the whole event. He didn't make it. I think he was still okay.
Mm.
You know what I mean? It's like
Mhm.
one day you're in the hospital and they're like, hey, like JC Lee Ward, you don't know when it's coming.
That's right.
You know what I mean? And so a lot of people are scared to death. I just say, listen, how to get uncomfortable are comfortable in that part of the number one. Isn't that crazy? We figure out what I said on the video right before we did this podcast today. Find out the thing that you're most scared of and figure out how to make yourself comfortable in that realm. And if you did it for the number one thing, then the rest of them are pretty easy.
Yeah. No, I mean,
Yeah.
I think when you tend to like constantly choose and go, well, is this important enough to get out of my comfort zone or not?
Right.
You're adding a level of importance in doing that more. I don't know what's going on with his camera now, but you're at a disco or
Whoa.
something. But it's almost like my room is normally. But
What?
anyway.
I don't even know what I did, so now I felt uncomfortable for a second.
Oh yeah.
Getting out of your comfort
Something
zone.
new. Something new. But yeah, we tend to like add, and I do this a lot. Like we tend to add a lot more importance and significance on something that it needs. And so it
Mhm.
becomes a bigger weight. And then therefore there's more anxiety around it. There's more decision making around it. There's more decisions that you'll put between you and doing it to get there, because you'll be like, well, maybe I'll be ready to be out of my comfort zone. If I did all these other things first and then got there, then I would be
Yes.
ready.
Great,
And so you
Matt.
add more and more weight to it, right?
Yes.
And I think it is just all in like the little things, right? It's
It's all
all in,
little.
What
okay,
if? What if?
yeah, it's like if
But learn to play the what if game. Sorry to interrupt you, Matt.
oh, go ahead.
But I never will ever forget that was my first billionaire mentor, Roger Penske. Is his constant thing was he was just saying, if you can instantaneously say what if and fill in with something that's not a good outcome, you can train your mind to say, but what if it works?
Yeah.
What if this shaves a few seconds and our car's faster and we qualify number one and no one can touch us in 500 miles? What if? And so it was this constantly push. That was the first guy that I was around that made me feel like failure was a part of success. We would spend 3 months in a design to create a chassis and then put the car together and take it out to a test track, and it just would not do what it was supposed to. So everything that we created was done in theory, it was done in math, it was done in science, geometry, everything that we put up. You just normally don't take a car at 250 miles an hour and put it like a marble inside of a cereal bowl and whip it around and see whether or not it crashes into the bottom of the bowl or goes out and goes into the wall. It's this really simple science that you're trying to figure out. And if the car didn't, it was so hilarious how fast that he would say, cut that up. We were like, what? We built 3 chassis. How much money went into this? He goes, it doesn't make a difference how much time and money was spent on something that's not going to work.
Right. You don't even think, it
Take a
sounds like
cutting
he's
torch
almost,
to it, cut that chassis in pieces, and take it to the scrapyard. And it's like, holy crap, we're just going to start over? Yeah.
you're kind of segueing into
Mhm.
like a really interesting thought that I want to share. And that is
Please.
like, okay, so if you have a fear of failure or getting out of your comfort zone, that tends to be attached to outcome. Now, what's really interesting about this to me, because my brain always is like questioning everything, right?
Good.
So you have bad outcome, you have good outcome, right? Both of them are outcomes. Now, if your outcome, you're visualizing like the best success that you could have, right? So people say, visualize what you want, visualize yourself there, all of these things, right? So say you do it and you start, but you get 75% of that. That obviously isn't a failure, right? It's still a
Right.
success, of course.
Yeah.
On the other hand, if things are not as bad as you thought they would be, isn't that a success as well?
Yes.
In the same regard, why
Absolutely.
wouldn't it be, right?
Yes.
So what I normally do in my mind is like when you level these two things against one another, I think it always like comes down to like the expectations you have and how much you allow that to like pressure you and frustrate you and make you fear things and all this, right? This massive amount of pressure to get out of your comfort zone based off of like outcome, right? If I get outcome A, maybe I'll be happy. You get outcome A, I'm not happy. Am I ever going to find outcome A that makes me happy? Might as well move to the next thing. Or it didn't
Yeah.
go the way that you felt, or it didn't feel the way that you wanted it to feel, right? And I think like getting outside of your comfort zone in a lot of ways, I'm learning, comes from a place of just eliminating those expectations and outcomes and just being there, being present and being okay with whatever it is. Doesn't mean you can't visualize what you want it to be or your dreams. But when you're in the scenario, when you're in the situation, Dad, like you're talking about, he's not thinking about how much money this is going to cost, like what you're talking about, right? Penske. He's not thinking of how much money is wasted, time's wasted, any of these things. He's thinking, he's eliminating himself from the outcome and allowing himself to be present in the process. It's
Yeah.
not working now. What do we have to do to get it to work? Instead of going, will it ever work?
Well, it's just
Well, how
part
much
of
money is this going to cost?
it's
All
part of the
these things that we
process.
can do, right?
It's part of the process and it's part of the journey.
Yeah.
Unrealistic expectations.
Yeah, it's just part of the
Right.
process and part of the journey. And where I think that a lot of people make themselves uncomfortable, even in the process, or quitting and being uncomfortable, is not only the unrealistic expectations, but the other thing that we know is comparitis. So
Mhm.
it didn't make a difference if you really, really were working on connecting with people. After connecting with people, getting it so good that people are really accepting the gift and they're very gracious about the gift. And then you ask them, could you do me a huge personal favor? Which is always usually the hardest, uncomfortable part about the process is, oh my God, now I got to ask him to do something for me, right? And so our unrealistic expectations is not what people normally think of. It's like we know there's book out there that talk about 10,000 hours, so if these guys have already done the studies and say, wait a minute, when you put 10,000 of hours of mastery into something, and that's with a great attitude of what it's going to be worth like when you get done with those 10,000 hours. See, you just don't do 10,000 hours. You do 10,000 hours of resistance and not feeling comfortable to get good or great at something that you're never going to feel comfortable doing. And no matter how you result, even if it's, well, I've done this and I'm only making $200 in profit. Do you guys realize how many startup companies never ever make a dime? If you read the story of Amazon and a lot of these companies, I don't think Amazon made a penny of profit in their first 5 or 10 years.
Yeah.
So the rest of the world sitting around and going, who would consistently take every dime that came into the company, continue to go further and further and further in debt. And then the Wall Street says that their company is worth a couple of $1 billion. So now you take that and go out and get more investors to go deeper in debt and continue this deeper in debt, more investors, deeper in debt, more investors, deeper in debt, knowing that one day is going to be profitable. That's a whole different level of uncomfort, because you have every investor and every person that put a dime into that going, you know, this should be working by now. Why isn't this working by now?
And you it's like the new VC stuff, right? Like it's easier now to sell something or give something away for almost free, put billions of dollars in venture capital into it, gain a large market share, dominate that market almost to the point of household name, and then raise the prices of everything. That's the way that you do it. So like household names like Uber, DoorDash, these types of things, they started cheap, and the reason they're more expensive now is because they got majority market share. They're still not profitable, believe it or not. But because they have such a large market share, there's so many other things. People are going to keep putting money into them because they know at some point they're going to pull some kind of profit, just like Google or Amazon or any of them do, right? And all you have to do that is either expand or raise prices. So,
right. And so that would be the other part, right? Is not only what do you got to do to get out of your comfort zone and go into the uncomfort, how long do you stay there? This is when my mentality was like, I'm just focused on me and growth. I just want to be better than the guy I was a year ago. I just want to be better guy than I, and Matt, you know, fortunately or unfortunately, been around me for 31 years. And it's like, if you asked him how many times I pressed the reset button and just go all in, I'm like, I'm not scared that things fail. I have the ability to always pull myself I always land on my feet.
Yeah.
I feel like I have way more than 9 lives. And I just like living knowing that I'm attempting something to impact a lot of people's lives and change who I am. And in that process, what do we always hear about people that die in that pursuit, that journey? Isn't it something where I never thought about this until we talked about it, but wouldn't the thing that would be said about a person like that is at least they died doing what they loved the most?
And what you just said, Robert, is so powerful.
That's
when
like
it comes
a pass.
To this topic. Yeah.
It's like a pass. Everyone gives these people a pass because it's like, geez, that guy really took a hard smash into that cliff, but he really loved doing that body selling stuff.
Oh gosh, yes.
Get a little wind shear and hits the wall and dies. And, you know, all the other people that are putting on suits that are around him went, yeah, that's the way to go.
No, I was gonna make a joke and say, okay, a little more to the left when I go.
Yeah.
No.
Yeah.
Next
It's like
time. Yes.
you
Right.
don't see a lot of people. My wife and I watched this documentary of this guy that's broken. They said he's broken 41 records for deep diving with no air pack, no
Okay.
nothing.
Free diving.
And when he won his first medal was 2 months. He won his medal 2 months later, watching his mom compete. That taught him how to do it. She went down. They never found her.
Oh, wow.
She went down, and hey, we can't go that deep, even with scuba gear. We don't know where she is. And they never found her. And he's broken 41 records since then. And then when they're asking him, how many times have you passed out where drivers had to pull you to air before you died? And he goes, 8. You know? And
Mhm.
it's like, but this is what I do.
Right.
This
Yeah.
is what I do. And isn't that the classic statement, Craig, where you hear, I don't know why people would climb Mount Everest and then get caught on it and die. And it's like, why do people climb mountains? Well, because they're there.
Because they're
Yeah.
there. Yeah. I mean, why do we do anything
And
that
now
is beyond what we should normally do or beyond what we do? And it
Right.
is because it's there, because we want to see if we can do that. You look at the reels that are here on YouTube or Facebook, or about all of these crazy things that people do. And it's not just what they do physically, but it's what they do with their head. And like, for
Oh.
example, the monster trucks. How do we build this monster truck that's going to do 2 flips in the air or roll backwards and then land up on its back wheels or its front and hold itself up for half a minute? It's like, and these are things that if you look at them, you're thinking, there's no freaking way.
Yeah.
But they step outside their comfort zone, and people just go nuts when they see something that's totally unique and different. Okay, one more. The Olga Korbut death spiral. It was only done once, but she dared to do it in the I think it was the 72 Olympics or the 76 Olympics. I forget which one, where she off the high bar, she literally does a flip, grabs the high bar in motion, and then continues through the rest of her routine. One time, and the gymnastics regulatory commission banned it.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, but she saw it and she did it, and she dared to do it, which meant she had to practice like crazy to do it. So
yeah, I heard that. What's the girl that's coming back, the gymnastic girl?
Simone Biles.
Simone Biles, yes.
Yeah, they were talking. I heard a girl interviewed, and she said, "Do you know that she's won all her world championships and all her medals in the Olympics on a move that was named after her?"
Mm-hmm.
And everyone knows that she has one that's also named after her. That's harder than that one. So she does a routine that's named after her that no one can beat, but everyone knows that if you do pull off her trick, she's got another one already set up. It's like,
Yeah, I remember back when I watched Shaun White.
compete against someone like
Yeah.
Oh, it was similar. It was like Shaun White was like practicing tricks that no one could do out in the middle of nowhere. And then when the Olympics showed up, it was like, okay, all these kids are doing the tricks that he won the gold medal with, and then he would pull out one trick that no one had ever seen before and win the gold medal, right?
Yeah.
And obviously for any of those situations, you have to step out of your comfort zone. There's actually like a whole documentary of him doing that, right? He's practicing this trick that he threw and won the gold medal with. And you can find this documentary on YouTube because Red Bull sponsored it. And he was like out in the middle of nowhere in this half pipe, out in the middle of nowhere practicing it. And he had made a mistake a little while back that severely injured him, almost ended his career in the half pipe. And you watch in this documentary him push through his comfort zone constantly, of his mind going, don't do that, you could die. Don't do that, you could die. And you have to just keep going through that process and that motion again and again and again, and then get yourself not only good enough to practice it and do it, but then get your adrenaline to a level to throw it in a competition where the whole world's watching you.
And
know,
especially after he crashed and burned the first time,
right?
in doing it in the public sector, or
Yeah,
even in the private sector too.
qualifying.
Yeah,
Right.
because it does take a toll. It beats you up mentally inside in saying that I don't know if I can do this. I don't know if I can do this. Okay, I'm going to do it. Boom, you crash and burn. It's like, no, I can't do it again. But you know it can be done, and it's a matter of getting through that.
And we're talking about physical things.
Yeah, Arthur
Yeah.
Wainio said, or even the skater who did the backflip on the ice in the Olympics, Scott Hamilton.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Same
And so
thing.
we're
You know,
talking
how
about-
many times did he go through that? And how many times did he stretch his comfort zone to try it?
Right. And the thing that I love about every one of these physical things that we're talking about, where someone says, this might not, this stuff doesn't matter to me. I'm not, doing monster trucks, and I'm not doing snowboarding, and I'm not doing a windsuit. The one thing
I
that
don't
you
either.
find out about all of these people is they're willing to admit. I remember seeing a really good interview with Muhammad Ali. And the person that quotes the interview the most is Mike Tyson. And it's the story that we've heard our whole life, is Muhammad Ali said, if you can't see yourself doing it in your mind, you're never going to do it on a physical level. It's this whole concept of visualizing. So if you can practice and learn how to visualize, and then visualize yourself actually completing the act. The first time that I seen someone walk on stage at an event and stood in front of 20,000 people and said, I've been in company for 6 months. I buying second Mercedes and building new home. I loved this. It was like, it snapped me. It totally snapped me that this broken English person figured out how to do this business. And it was all about your ability to go through your mindset and not worry about what other people are thinking of you. Is that if you're willing to go through the numbers, and you're willing to go through the number of attempts of doing the thing that you want to do, that you do pick up this memory thing. You just see yourself going a little further. You just see yourself going a little further. So every company that I've been in, I've already went through the presentation that I'm going to give for hitting that rank so many times in my mind. So when it comes to doing it, it's like, I knew exactly what I was going to say when I got on the stage. I already done this a million times.
And here we were talking about the physical side of things, but then there's also the mental and the emotional of going and stepping out beyond our comfort zones.
No, yeah. I think once you start getting into the mental stuff, it gets really complicated for a lot of people. And because I think what's so interesting about talking about physical aspects of getting pushed outside your comfort zone is, without a shadow of a doubt, they take mental fortitude beyond what most people have to get to that place anyway, right? We're talking about having to talk your mind into doing things that normally is going to say, no, that's not a good idea to. And I think when you start getting into the mind aspects of it, right, and getting outside of your comfort zone, that could mean so many things to so many people, right? Because that's always going to be different from person to person. We can see someone run a quarter mile and go, that can be done physically, but no two humans seem to get to the same spot mentally the same way. It's not like we all go through the program and we all get wired and go, great, now that program's running correctly on all of us, so we're all good now. It's like, no, some people have viruses in their programs. Some people have stuff that they have to work through and work out, and it's different. It can be difficult. And that goes back to being an observer. Like, I'm an observer of other people. So instead of judging them for how they are, I observe how they are, and I ask questions about who they are, and you get more of an understanding about why they are the way they
Right.
are, or the things that
Mhm.
affect them and the way that they do things. A huge getting out of your comfort zone for some people is journaling. Like, the first time you sit down and you're like,
Good one, man.
I have to
Simple
sit
one.
down and have to write about what's in my mind, and then you start writing it, and maybe it's bad shit, and then you're just like, how could I keep doing this, right? It's just, I don't understand how this is useful in any way. It feels very uncomfortable, right? Because for the first time, sometimes you have to visually see, like you do most things, something that you mentally think, the words that you think about yourself. And you go, those are mean. That's not right.
That's the
Right?
bullying. Yep.
Yep.
You can feel the bullying yourself in a more visual way. And I think that's where journaling really helps, because you can also see the positives. You can also go back in a journal 5 weeks ago and go, yeah, I was doing bad then, but I'm doing much better now. Or I was doing better now and I'm not doing so well. At the current time, what was I doing then that I wrote about that made that the case? What was
Right.
working then? And I think that it's so good to document these things in a journal about yourself and to talk to yourself. So in a lot of ways, getting outside your comfort zone for me mentally was having that dialogue,
Right.
taking the dialogue that most of the time was so internal and automatic that it was a huge uncomfortable moment when I started journaling it out and speaking it out to other people, especially like therapy or my family or friends. It's so different to be like, "Hey, listen, here's this crazy thought I have," because you immediately go, "Well, what if they think I'm crazy?" Right?
Right.
And then you have that realization, maybe it's just me or most people with age or in other things have a realization that every single person that's done everything or talked about certain things was crazy. Like, there's a certain level
Every-
to it where if you were best friends with Edison or Tesla, right? Back in the day, and they're like talking about these waves of electricity and energy that you can send and how they can power and light things, you'd probably be like, we already have fire, dude. Like, I don't understand why none of this makes any sense. And I think it's important to know the times in your life that you have the mental capacity to allow yourself to get that out and not bully yourself in that process. It's been huge for me.
Yeah.
Do either one of you guys journal? I mean, is it something that you follow, or?
No,
Can't
I
read my
don't.
writing.
There have
You
been
can journal
times
on your
though.
phone though. Some people don't physically
Oh,
write.
then
Yeah,
yeah, if you've seen my notepad, yeah. I
Right.
mean, oh my God.
there have been times where I've actually been conflicted with several things happening at once. And I have found that writing them down, journaling a little bit,
Right.
has helped me to work through them. And this is just me,
Yeah.
because it's like, okay, I've got this, and this. Do I do this, or this? And sometimes when you write it down, when you take a step back and you look at it, and you look at it from a distance, then you can kind of get a better perspective of what it is. And yeah, it is, in that for me is kind of stepping out of my comfort zone for that particular moment.
Yeah.
Yeah.
No,
There
I
was
mean,
And
yeah, absolutely.
Craig
yeah,
on a past podcast, easy for me to say. For a
say
past
that fast five
on
times.
one of our past podcasts, it's amazing that you and I both talked about our thoughts around being failures and how uncomfortable we were, thinking about getting divorced.
Hmm.
That this was that, what are people going to say? And based on the environment, the people that knew us, and what are parents going to say, and all of this stuff. And there's a classic one where we know very, very unhappy people and very bad relationships. And it's supposed to be more comfortable being in a toxic relationship than having everybody looked at you as being a failure for being a divorced.
Especially many years ago when it wasn't as acceptable,
Yeah.
like that, which my mom went through. And
Right.
she, for lack of a better way of saying it, she stepped out of her comfort zone because she felt
my
she
God.
knew that this could not continue.
Back in those days, that was like a scarlet letter.
Oh, yeah, absolutely it was.
Absolutely.
Right.
It's not if somebody knew. It's like I've actually seen shows where they've always made a big deal out of that. Like, Craig walks into a restaurant or a coffee shop and he's by himself and he goes, "Hi, my name's Craig." "Oh, you're the divorce guy." It's
Yeah.
like,
Or,
well, my name is Craig. I don't want to be identified as a divorce guy.
I would just get a T-shirt printed. "Hi, I'm Craig, the divorce guy." That's the thing I do. So
and then you can put labels on people like single moms. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And it's like,
Oh,
why
yeah,
why is one worse deadbeat dad? You know what I mean? Versus, it's pretty crazy, and it's this. I just know that for all of you, every one of you, that find it difficult to get out of your comfort zone. Me personally, I'd like to challenge people because I know we got a lot of smart people that watch our podcast. And I just am not aware. And maybe that's the world that I created for myself. My uncomfortability is because I've had no money and no family and no one to, um, that whole concept that if you're in a bad place, reach out to somebody, family, reach out to somebody. I know if Matt had anything going on in his life, I know that I or his mother's getting a call.
right.
And we got instantaneous time and resources to help him with whatever he has.
support.
I didn't have that. I
Mhm.
had none of that. And so, it's that whole concept of uncomfortability for me, Matt and Craig, is me believing that I could go back to where I was. You can call me a workaholic, you can call me whatever you freaking want to call me, but you're not going to call me unsuccessful. You're not going to call me average. You're not going to call me ordinary. It's like, I must have created some kind of weirdness in my mind that when I was young, and oh, that's the kid that has no parents. That's the kid, that's the foster kid. That's the, it was like constantly the special kid that can't read, who can't read, you know what I mean? And it was this constant thing of me hearing these stuff that I was able to go through the awful bullying and the stuff that people said about me. So my little thing that I did was I made myself more uncomfortable by putting me around the other special kids and being a defender for them. See, I was the guy that was constantly in trouble for slapping the shit out of somebody because they're pestering or bullying or making fun of someone that was special. It's like I got to put on my super cape. I got to beat the shit out of them, and then I was in the principal's office getting expelled. You know what I mean? So that was where I created my superpower thing, and I still do that today. I still want to go and help all the people that have learned hopelessness. So I've created sort of a trick in my mind where Matt's seen me many, many, many times where, it seems like the obvious that, we're probably could be like Amazon. I just looked really quick, 8 years before they're in profit. But Matt's seen me many times where we've had to totally reinvent what we're doing and do something we never have. And I always pull it off. Not just by myself, with the loving and support of Terry. She's always been my number one
Always.
super fan. It's like, I don't know how he pulls this shit off, but he just goes out there and starts doing a bunch of shit that no one wants to do. And the next thing, there's great big deposits in our bank account. And so Matt has seen that too. Matt has seen that where, I have no fear because of my past of having nothing.
Well, what's so interesting about everything you shared, Dad, and of course, like, I love your heart and everything, but it almost feels like that fear is no longer centered on you not having those things, but the people that you love experiencing what you had to experience.
Yeah, I don't
Or the
want
people that you care about. Well, even people that you've worked with and cared for and helped. It's like, what that feels like. And so you wanting to make sure no one else feels that way or feels in abundance, that makes a lot of sense, actually.
Yeah.
Like, to why you are as driven as you are to do these things. Because I truthfully feel like if you were money motivated, then we'd be sitting here with like $1 billion, probably.
Yeah, probably.
But since you're not, I wouldn't say you are. I'd say that you have family that you want to bring abundance to, and therefore you generate the funds to make those things happen, or other people, or to support people. And I've seen that in you. So normally, anytime my dad's had to develop more as a person, since I've been an adult and been able to witness it, it's always been in that direction, right? Like, it's always been in that direction of like understanding people more in different aspects and supporting them in ways that he wasn't able to support them in before. I think that my dad's become a much more emotionally supportive person to people than he was in the past,
Right.
working with people. And I think that that's benefited greatly in like the people that we surround ourselves with, because truthfully now I feel like a lot of them are also openly emotional. And it's huge because people get on and they'll share in the inner circle stuff with you. Some stuff that they might not even share with their spouse or their friends or family, because they feel like it's a comfortable emotional atmosphere, and that's only that way because of you. So it's like,
well, thank you. Yeah,
that's something that's huge.
I want to continue with that, Matt. And Robert, how long do you think it took for you to step out of your comfort zone to embrace that? Because I know that I've noticed that you have, over the years since I've known you, you've tapped into more of the emotional, the heart of you to share with people.
I would honestly say, and people might not like this answer, I don't even feel like I'm anywhere close to where I need to be.
Okay.
The one thing that Matt keeps bringing into my attention, Matt has such a different view and angle and perception and reality that he looks at, and he helps me with that. And Craig, you have too. And it's like, because I'm in my little bubble and I need people outside of that bubble to sort of say, hey, listen, look at this perception, look at this perception. And Matt doesn't scare me with the talk of the future in AI. With that, going into that uncomfortable unknown, right? The consistency of Matt letting me know that not only is everything going to be okay, but that we as a group of human beings that are going to continue to build this culture and this group around us are people that got to be raw. You gotta be raw. You gotta be vulnerable. You gotta be willing, saying stuff that, as we've seen Lisa Marie and a few other people in the inner circle, that as they're talking about it, they're not even expecting the emotions part to take over a little bit, because you're diving in such a place on a personal level where you know how vulnerable you are. You know what I mean? You're going like, I'm about ready to share a secret with people that no one knows, and that I have these, when I first started sharing this stuff with Matt and even you, Craig, where in this group of that we've created in the inner circle, that we're as a group of people that are all sitting around talking about that they all have bad, stupid thoughts that they thought were just them.
Yeah. And being comfortable to share, which is stepping outside their comfort zone.
Yeah. And now, even though I've never been a part of like AA or Al-Anon or any of those groups, I can really see how powerful that is. And just like therapy, where you're sitting around a group of people and you say, I was driving down the freeway and I don't know why I thought of just turning left into the medium and hitting the supports that held the overpass, and people are like,
I always say there's that. Yeah.
Me too. You know what I mean? You say something that crazy, and there's not a lot of groups that are calling the police saying that you're a harm to yourself and others. You know what I mean?
Mhm.
It's like, holy cow, I don't know what to do with these thoughts. I don't know how to unpack them, and that's why I've always made a joke about fear, is that this joke is, hey, you reach out to somebody and you say, hey, I was wondering if you could do me a huge favor and take a look at this opportunity. And they said, that's enough. I'm tired of people doing this. They hang up the phone. A few hours later, you hear a knock on the door. You go there and it's that person. They pull out a gun and kill you. And every time I do that theoretical in front of a group of people, people are going, that's nonsense. That's stupid. That's not going to happen. Well, your make-believe shit between what I said and it's not going to happen at all. Your story is somewhere in the middle there.
Yeah.
It's like, what makes your make-believe story that makes you uncomfortable so you don't want to step out of your comfort zone? That bullshit story that you're telling yourself was just as outrageous as my bullshit story. You just gotta go, yeah, I'm really good at making that shit up and living in the what if world. And that's why when someone takes your what if world to a whole outrageous place, there's two ways that a mind thinks. You take it outrageous and it's stupid, and then you reduce it to the ridiculous and it can happen. So, you're always thinking like, oh my God, what if I can't get X amount of people to actually do this business? So then I would be in profit. What are people going to think? I'm going to be a failure. And it's like, well, what if you bring in one person like me and they bring in 20,000 people and you make $300,000 a year off the 30% that you make on one tier of the comp plan?
Which has happened to at least one that we know of, possibly two.
Numerous people. And believe it or not, it's just not MDC, it's any company.
Exactly.
There's always these outrageous things where you look at the income disclosure statement and it says the average person makes 15 cents a year. And it says lowest, 0. Biggest one at the lowest position made $217,000. And you're like, what the hell? That's the same kind of person that didn't put any thought into creating a viral video because his pickup wouldn't start. And he jumps on his skateboard and decides to record himself
that's
Fleetwood Mac.
that's honestly the key to it. And that's like, and I'm learning that myself, Dad. And thank you so much for sharing all that, because it's like, anytime I have the ability, and I know that we're all here and we're all learning from one another, but anytime I have the ability for either one of you guys or anyone to like share what that is for them or how they've come to that, it's so interesting, because I think when you think of certain aspects to why we would fear things, some of it is self-made, most of it is outward made. Like most of it is, if you could just shut off the news for a week type of stuff, right?
Yes.
Your fear would exponentially drop. Maybe fear wouldn't be number 2 on here, but number 1 is death, and I wonder why that's on there. But same reason, right? But like, I think
on there, does it say death, and then does it have a line saying death/AI? Does it?
No, believe it or not, the AI didn't write itself into the fear list, so it left itself out.
Ah, it's smart. We're not
Uh-huh.
supposed to be. We're not supposed to be
By the
scared of
way,
AI.
you
It's
know,
not going to put itself on the list.
Sam Altman, the CEO of OpenAI, tweeted this morning, and he said, "I believe that AI will get to the point where it can mimic a human enough to persuade them or to do things before it will get general intelligence." And he's like, and I'm interested to see what will happen between those points. Because that's always been a fear, right? The fear is that the AI gets really, really good at mimicking who a human being is, to the point where you could have a full conversation on the internet with it. But it's not aware enough to know right from wrong on its own level. And that's actually programmed into it. It's because this is when it starts to become a tool for people to do good and bad with, right? So it's like point a non-emotional thing that you could teach the rules in this direction and tell it to do those things to those people, and it will, but if it goes, no, I have enough knowledge to know that's wrong, that's where you want to get it to before. So
when we hear all these analogies where, AI now, there's not a person that will play chess, or I forget what complicated game that the Chinese play with all
Go.
the marbles. And
It's Go.
Go.
and then so right now they're saying that AI looks at human intelligence as being so simple that that's not the hardest thing that it has to do, is convincing somebody to do something against their will. It's like the AI, if you could be an AI right now, it's like, nah, people are pretty simple. Terry and I were watching a new movie. I don't remember. It's called, it has to do with a Black professor that wrote a book on everything about the human psychology. And so there's this guy that walks up to him and he says, my son is lost. And he says, I read your book and I've been to one of your seminars, and you're flat out the smartest person I know. And I need your help to find my son, because, the authorities are just not going to do it. And the psychologist looked at him and said, oh, so you're using the glow effect? And the guy smiled and he said, yeah. And he said, so you thought by complimenting me as a genius, and also going to my seminars and buying my books, that you telling me how great I am would somehow make me want to help you? And he goes, I was hoping it would. And he says, you don't need to hope. I knew you were doing it to me, and I'm going to help you.
I mean, once you've been in marketing long enough and read enough books on psychology and these types of things, you do, not saying I'm in any way like that, but you do, going back to the observer thing, start to understand what people are doing, why they're doing it, and you stop.
Yep.
Like there's this one quote that I've heard a few times, but it's the malice incompetence quote. Never contribute something to malice that could also be contributed to incompetence. So it's like, most of the time we think people are doing bad things to us, when the reality is bad things that they're doing to us might just be because they're incompetent and don't know any better.
Wow.
And that's most of the time the way that it is, especially with mental stuff. Like, people tend to dish out trauma because they've been dealt it.
Yeah.
Right. And so it's like, it's more that awareness thing. It's like, okay, maybe they're this way because they're incompetent in knowing why they're that way.
Right.
And it's interesting is when you talk about the community that we've built here, right? I was thinking about what you said earlier about the bully thing. And I'm like, I wonder when we're going to have a moment in time where the community is large enough where a bully hops in and like actually tries to bully somebody, and we have to get rid of them because of that. So we haven't like really had that.
Well, we
Probably
did on an AMA. We did on an AMA that was pretty out there, because yeah.
Well, troll and a bully is a different thing. I would say someone that gets into the community and then tries to like tell people and bully people into doing things, like any community will have after a certain point, right? because like there's something in us that we need this superiority. You know, if I'm part of this community with you guys, I'm just as equal as everybody else here.
Right.
Like I am.
agree.
I'm just contributing as much as I can, right? And I think in the future that's the way that it will be. But
Right. And when we're talking about programming, sticking with the title, getting out of your comfort zone,
right.
sometimes we go on tangents and I sort of wonder why they're there. And then I sort of listen to us going on the tangent. Like fear of loss and people giving you compliments and making you feel good, the glow effect. I never ever heard it called that way. But I know that each and every one of you have had someone either manipulate or persuade you to do something, and you knew what they were doing. And as you knew they were doing it, it worked anyway. Like the
Mhm.
example I gave. Let's turn that around, and maybe close out on this by very simply saying, isn't that the mental thought of being in a comfort zone or getting out of a comfort zone? Isn't that really something that may or may not be created by our environment, the media, propaganda, the government? It's like this constant thing that you don't know that you're in water if you're a fish. You know what I mean? That's your environment. So, we talk about getting out of the comfort zone when we don't realize that the environment, the people that we hang around, the everything is really, really designed for you just to be entertained. Pay your monthly subscriptions and really honestly stay comfortable.
Yeah.
If you step out of your comfort zone, listen to me while you guys are watching this. If you stepped out of your comfort zone, you might not need all the subscriptions that you currently have because you might be out there actually connecting with people, making an impact in people's lives, and actually growing and becoming a person that not only has freedom, but also has the money to constantly stay uncomfortable. So maybe the bubble that you're feeling without you knowing that you're in that bubble is the comfort that the world has created for you. The people around you that give you their opinions. Everybody wants you, along with that reptile brain in the back of your head is, listen, you don't have to do anything. Just freaking maintain. Just maintain. Don't shake the apple cart. Don't make any waves. You know what I mean? How many, Matt, do a quick
Yes.
one. Just put in, don't upset the apple cart, and see how many little, what are other common
Oh, there's a
denominator
lot.
words like this?
Oh, I bet there
Yeah.
Because
are. I mean,
how
when
many times, Craig, you and I are a
They're
little
called
older.
idioms, right?
You and I are a
Yeah.
little older, right? And so
yes,
it's like, it was all these things that as soon as you wanted to step out of that comfort zone, holy crap, was there a bunch of words that people could
Oh,
say in their
gee.
opinions. Come on, just get a good job, Craig.
Yep.
You don't need to be doing this entrepreneurial bullshit.
Yeah, the minute that you feel like you're becoming you, people want to hold you back. Now, does that mean that maybe you being you is stepping out of the comfort zone because you're trying to appease everybody?
Ooh,
Mhm.
stepping out of your comfort zone and being a people pleaser.
Yeah. Is your
Yeah.
what is your comfort zone? I mean, is it because of what people have imposed on you? I
What they
mean,
expect of you.
what they expect of you, and you see some of these people. Okay, I'm going to go to, let's say, Prince for an example. When Prince finally said, no, it's my way or it's nothing at all, and Warner Brothers fought him tooth and nail until finally he went out and did what he wanted to do, and all of a sudden his music exploded.
I can't imagine being told, listen,
Well,
you will fulfill your contract, or we'll make sure
Yeah,
you don't produce music anymore. And he's going, okay, I'm just going to come out and write slave on the side of my face. You know what
exactly.
I mean?
Okay, musically, there are bands that have done that. Artistically, okay, there's what is it? Actors who've
Sure.
stepped way over the line. One of the more recent ones that I can remember is Heath Ledger when he did the Joker and in the Batman. I mean, he went way over the top, and people said, "No, come back, come back." No, he went full throttle. And oh my gosh, Joaquin Phoenix, when he did his version of the Joker, same thing. And those are just the movie people. What about the people? What about the writers, the authors who challenged what was considered the norm?
Wow, one of my favorite things is like you pick up an old book that's critically acclaimed, right?
Mm-hmm.
Or the audiobook version of it if you don't like to read. But you pick up the book and you go, like, is this really that good of a book? Is it really that important to have lasted 200 years or whatever? Then you start reading it and you're like, fuck, it is that important and that good. Yeah, there's a reason for this. Like one of my favorite books is East of Eden. And when I first read that book, I'm like, almost everything that I need to know about being a human is in this book. And it's interesting when you read a book that does that to you, because you're like, this artist has had such a culmination with Grapes of Wrath, all of the other books that he had written to get to East of Eden. And he even said this, Steinbeck said this himself. He's like, I wrote all of these books to get good enough to write East of Eden. And so I actually haven't read Grapes of Wrath. I've just read East of Eden. So I'm reading that and going, everything that is about the human experience is in this book. And he was able to capture it well before the internet, well before any of these things, just by observing people, just by being an observer and writing those things down. The cool thing about Steinbeck is he falls in the same area as a couple of other American authors where his writing is very easy to read. Like, he's not one of those big literary guys that's going to hit you with a million different like smart words, right? That's the thing, is that a lot of his writing, like Grapes of Wrath, were viral back in the day, the viral version of being back in the day, which means everyone read it because he was communicating in a language that everyone could understand, right? He wasn't trying to. And I've said this about my dad, by the way, is it's like my dad has this mind that has the ability to take complex information and then get on video and communicate it in a way that, like he said, like a 5-year-old could understand it and do it in a peaceful, jokey way. So it's like entertaining instead of like boring, you know what I mean? And I think that's why I love people that step outside their comfort zone and write those things, because when I will read those books, my mind would immediately go to the 50s movies that I've seen, where I'm like, these movies are like so PC and weird.
Oh,
like,
gosh.
You know what I mean?
Today is, yes.
So anti the human experience. It's something you could mimic in modern day films and people would get it, right? Like, it's so idealistic of what human beings are. So then you have certain artists that create things in that time and you go, there's just no way that they were actually speaking about the true human experience. And then you read it and you're like, oh, the brothels in there, all these different types of things are in East of Eden. And I just didn't think that any of that stuff would make it in that book. And then you go back and you read, and a lot of the stuff that was one of the things he was praised for, was putting all that in there. He was one of those people that actually was like, no, I'm going to put the dark parts of humanity in here too, just like the Bible does, or just like any of these other books do. We're not going to like water it down to the Hollywood experience, right?
Right.
And now movies are doing that, of course. So it's like, you can talk about the Joker, the new one especially, because even though Heath Ledger's performance is great as the Joker in the sense of the character, the Joker, I'd say that the new Joker with Joaquin is a complete mixture of the Joker and Taxi Driver, like a Scorsese movie, Taxi Driver. because it focuses not on the character of the Joker being a supervillain, but of the mental psychosis of somebody that does these things and how he got there, the steps to get there. And I find those things when you can look at those aspects and share them. Dad, going back to your thought about driving to the other side, this is a part that I love doing in my own fiction, and I love when other people do. We're in October. It's horror season. I grew up watching horror. I love horror movies. This is my time of the year, right? I have a Shining poster behind me.
There you go.
So
And you have a ghost over your other shoulder too. If you look at it in the way I'm looking at it, the two eyes with the sheet over it, it does. Yeah, it looks like it's a ghost.
I'll tell Hannah. But no, my feeling about it is rooted in that as well, right? And my dad's even said this in my own interview. If you talked to me 5 years ago, I wouldn't share most of my stories or thoughts with anybody because I'm one of those guys that's going to make some of those horror movies. And I say this shit to people, they're going to put me away before I can make them. Like Stephen King type stuff, right? It's like...
Yeah, Matt has personally said to me that, Dad, I haven't shared some of my best fiction stories with you because he was afraid that I would look at him different.
Yeah, no, of course.
Yeah, and so that you again,
my dad's a happy dude. He loves like Field of Dreams, right? You're not going out of your way to
or Nightmare on Elm Street or
right,
or Friday the 13th.
I like Up and Karate Kid, you know.
Yeah, I want to feel uncomfortable for 2.5 hours straight. And now I push that to VR even, where it's like you put on a VR headset and you're fully immersed in these horror experiences, and I'm like, I can't wait to see where that goes, you know. But
can you imagine being behind the chainsaws in that Geico commercial, and you have the chainsaw guy right behind you? I mean, just that alone.
It's funny how I almost segue right into getting out of your comfort zone. How many people are afraid to watch anything scary because they're like, I do not want to feel that feeling. I love that feeling.
I can't unsee that. I can't unsee that.
If I have a story or a thought or a dream that gives me that feeling, I like immediately go start writing. Like I'm like, that is a great feeling.
You know, there are some people though. Again, that's where the challenge of being uncomfortable is. Matt, I know that you know directors' names, but that black director that wasn't it like In or Out or something like that, or
Get Out, Jordan Peele.
Yeah.
Get Out. So here's someone that's playing with that scary part of the world, right? But in my mind, he's still doing it to really get you thinking, like, oh my God, you know what? I remember the last one that I seen is where, this alien ship. I don't remember.
Nope?
Huh?
Nope.
Another
Jordan Peele movie.
I seen that on an airplane.
He said alien ship, and I'm like, nope.
I was like in my mind going, whoa, you know what I mean? Yeah. It's like
my wife is visiting family right now, so she's not here. So she's watching a bunch of movies. So she'll send me like pictures, and she'll be like, "What movie is this?" Just from a still, and I'll be like, "It's this movie from this director. This is the cinematographer." Like that's how much I'm into it, right?
Right.
So, yeah, I mean, she's like, "I watched Dawn of the Dead today," and I'm like, "That's actually the remake, of Dawn of the Dead, the original." That was a remake of Night of the Living Dead by George A. Romero. Anyway, but
hey, and talk about being uncomfortable.
Oh yeah, the snowstorm.
Snow. Yes, I saw that.
I walked the dogs.
You messaged me earlier about that, right. Robert.
Hey,
I walked my dogs earlier. A couple dribbles hit my head. I live in Southern California, and I'm like, we need to go back inside.
Yeah, Terry told me to go out and look at the driveway because we got such a steep driveway. I have to go buy de-icer and de-ice the whole driveway. So we got to get up probably leave here at 4, to get to the airport because we don't live close to the airport. And so I opened up the door and our 2 golden retrievers, Dex and Leo, ran out the door and just immediately slid down the driveway.
Oh no. I wish you got a video of that.
And you could see,
Oh yes.
you could see 8 claw marks. They were just
And they're sitting there
noise,
trying to balance themselves.
right, like Scooby-Doo or some one of those cartoons.
Yes, Scooby-Doo.
and
Yes.
they immediately got out of their comfort zone. They
Listen, we're coming out to visit you guys for Christmas, of course. And we have a puppy that we got the last time we were there in February in Montana. Same breeder as Milo. Rue has never seen this like actual snow. Because when we went to go get her, it was like right as a snowstorm had just ended and another one was coming in. So like I'm excited to see how she is in the snow because she's just so happy. But
How does
anyway,
Milo respond?
he eats the snow. He loves it. Yeah, I'm
Okay.
gonna pick her up and show you guys, but we can go ahead and end the podcast. I'll show her off. This is the dog that ran away.
Hi, Rue.
Hi, Rue.
Say hi, Rue. She's got that stare like I'm not supposed to be up here right now.
Right. I'm terrified.
Why are you doing this to me?
Help.
I'm terrified that you're gonna drop me.
No, never. I'm always weightlifting her with one hand.
So yeah. I guess the last line that I'll say is that understanding where your comfort and your uncomfort is part of awareness. And
Right.
what you got to do is consistently work on your awareness, and everything I believe in life should be done in moderate,
Moderation.
Yeah, the way that you learn to be in a more uncomfortable position to better your life and grow and learn is, again, just do it in baby steps. Just do it in small, little amounts. I've heard people that are just 100% scared of meditation. So, I don't know what environment and stuff that they listen to, but I definitely know how uncomfortable I was listening to this Satan stuff that was in the
Happy birthday.
That was
I think that was because of this, Robert.
Yeah, the
quotes.
Yeah,
there you go.
So I have no idea what those are. That's funny.
I think it's got to be something that Apple's up to.
Yeah.
It just keeps happening now.
Yeah, you know what?
Like half the podcast, you're blocked by hearts and stuff.
What you need to do is you got to get an Apple computer if you really want it. See?
Yeah. Maybe when you say Apple,
you could not pay me to use those effects.
That's interesting. You did not do that on camera, but yet it read it.
Yeah, it's crazy, Matt, that you got to feel negative about this stuff.
Oh, Rain, there you go.
He's clicking.
It's
I could do it.
It's picking up on words. There's AI in progress.
I thought about because I've been really like all in on VR since the Quest 3 stuff has come out, right? So this technology is like I can't even I did the dishes the other day with the VR headset on watching a movie. And if I needed to move the screen, I just reached up with my hands and grabbed it. It wasn't actually there. I just moved it and then dragged it and made it bigger. So I'm playing around with this technology that's going to be even better in the Vision Pro, right? And then eventually we'll be in all sunglasses and stuff like that. But oh my God, I'm just like in love with this technology right now. Like
and how uncomfortable are people? The first time that you put on a VR headset.
Oh, I had the cord. I had to put up the base stations to scan it.
The first time that you watch 3D, or the first time that you put on virtual glasses, the very first thing that you hear people say is what?
Oh, this is uncomfortable, or
this is uncomfortable. This is uncomfortable. I don't want to. The last thing I need to do is be walking around with a device. I'm
right here.
They put this in your hand and you got comfortable with it.
No, I mean it is a big thing, and I think that what's so interesting about watching that technology grow and become more adopted is obviously I'm sitting there typing with my fingers on something that doesn't exist. I'm moving things around that don't exist, and I'm using this technology and going like, I'm used to being on that area where it's like, okay, this is almost at the place where my mom would use it. Right. And that for me is where
Yeah.
smartphones took off. I wasn't very coherent in 2008 because I was a child. But now watching this technology grow and grow and grow, there's no doubt in my mind that we're like a year or two away from it being like way more commonplace, especially in computing or work environments. Like I can't now anytime I think about traveling, I'm like, why would I don't need a laptop. I have a computer I could put on my head and use like I could put my keyboard attached to it. I could do everything I want and have three massive screens just like I have at the house anywhere that I want to. And I think
People are
what's
going to look
really
at you funny on an airplane.
they do now, right? And me and Hannah were joking about this the other day, how watching somebody take a selfie pre-smartphone selfies was really weird to see. Now, I would say that that's TikToks, like watching someone make a TikTok, like you're walking through public and you like that person's making a TikTok right now. You know that they are, right? And you notice it, but I'm noticing a lot of younger people don't notice it. And then before you know it, it's just become so common, right? It's like just a
Right.
common thing we do. And for me, being able to take my phone, one of the worst things about the phone's experience is how small it is. If I was going to watch a video on this, it's just like I just don't want to, right? Unless if I have to. So
Right.
being able to finally have pass through, put on a headset and have the cameras on the front see the world the way that my eyes almost see it without them on has changed it. And that's why now I can look at it and go, it's almost there, because the disconnect for people is that wobbly VR feeling, not the mixed reality, but the VR stuff where you're in a different world. But this mixed reality stuff, now that this is really my first jump and foray into a good version of it, this is the future of technology without a shadow of a doubt. Like being able to move those things around or have as many screens or watch a movie the size of an IMAX theater in my living room and have it be the most comfortable version of it so far. I don't know how good Apple's shit's going to be, but it is going to be way better. So like I can't imagine. And because you use an Apple phone and everything else, it will connect. We all know they'll all connect together and talk to each other. So, um,
Matt talking about being more uncomfortable.
no, I just was reading a question. Do you watch with the Quest, Matt? Is that what that says?
Yeah.
Yeah,
Do you
no, I
watch-
mean,
That's Arthur.
yeah, Quest 3, I've been through like all the iterations of Quest from 1. But this one's the first one that really is pushing mixed reality. It's not as cheap as the other headsets are. It's $500 just for like the base model of it. But I'm telling you, if you connect it to your computer or you even use it as a base computer, it is a very good computer just in and of itself. And it runs on Android. So, if you're in that world already, you can connect, you can use any Android app on it. So, but I watching stuff on it, it's still not completely there, right? Like,
Sure.
It's got to be still uncomfortable because of the
I'm more used
device.
to it than most people because I've
Right.
had
But
going back to the 10,000 hours I probably have spent that
Yeah,
amount in these
it
things.
really is
But
about
and here's sorry, I was going to say, and here is where stepping outside of the comfort zone in this regard comes to play, because all right, I have an old, headset that you slip the phone in and you
Right.
wrap it around, and then you don't, now it's not connected with earphones. You have to put on a set of a Bluetooth set of headphones and tie that into the phone, and then it finally works. I've seen at the moment, and I'm sure, and of course the Apple set, where everything is in the eyeglasses. The Bose headsets have little ear
oh yeah, the
that you
new
can wear in your
Ray-Ban,
glasses.
the
Yeah,
Meta.
they
Believe it
have
or not,
the speakers right here that go straight into the ears, but you're not wearing earphones. It's basically just like you're wearing your eyeglasses.
So it allows you to hear
Yeah.
everything around you as well as hearing from
Exactly.
The crazy
and
thing
that's
about
where
even
we're
these
going
new
now.
Ray-Bans, right? Those new Ray-Bans, I've seen people test them, the Meta ones. It's pretty good at you being able to hear from it, but then everyone else can hear it, which is very crazy to think about since you're not, I have headphones on. Of course I can't hear anything outside of
Right.
me, but to think that they're getting good enough with audio that they can hit your ear drums correctly, but then not have enough noise that anyone else around you could hear it. That's
If anybody
pretty
wants to go to
interesting.
like I found these at Best Buy. They were available. They were the show item. What's
Right.
out there to look at. And I put them on and I was like, wow, the sound quality.
Mm-hmm.
And then you add that to now the new technologies of VR and how that's going to expand our universe, and the fact that there's 3D audio available, the quality of the sound. So you could literally, okay, you're saying watch a movie with just your eyeglasses and these, just with the eyeglasses or the glasses.
Right.
And you're going to be able to hear somebody step in front of you, do that, and then talk, and it'll go around your head and come right back to the front. That audio exists, but it
Yeah.
hasn't been enhanced until probably now.
Well, what's so interesting about those technologies, and I know we could do a whole podcast on this,
Oh
but
gosh, yes.
Yeah,
because
people
I
are
could do an
asking,
infinite amount.
people are asking for it in the chat.
Well, I actually think I'll probably do another like special Matt special edition one of these days on technology again on a few things, because right now I'm utilizing ChatGPT to do like 80% of my work. So like it most of the time I don't write emails. I proofread emails now. Most of the graphics I don't make most of it. I just made the template. The AI does most of it now.
If you guys notice,
So
my shirts keep changing colors in the graphic. That's Matt changing
that's
my
AI.
shirts. I don't
Yeah.
own those shirts.
Believe it or not, Craig and my dad are actually not even here right now. Both of them are just AI that I've trained.
Thank you very much, Matt.
I was waiting for somebody. All right, we could end it there, because I'll keep going.
We could do her.
Oh yes. All right. Well, ladies and gentlemen, thank you so much for taking time out of your busy schedule to join us. Of course, you can follow Robert Hollis at roberthollis.com. You can also follow Robert on YouTube at roberthollis.com/YouTube, on Instagram at instagram.com/official Robert Hollis, and on TikTok at tiktok.com/@real Robert Hollis. Please don't forget to like and share this video on YouTube and share it with others. It will help our community grow and reach those with ears to hear. Our schedule normally is every day at noon p.m. Pacific, except for tomorrow through when, Robert? Monday? You're gonna get on as much as you can, but typically,
yeah, Monday we'll be flying as well.
Okay, so typically our schedule is every day noon Pacific, except for this coming week because Robert is on a special assignment. As we like to say.
I'm telling you guys what, not to interrupt you quick, Craig, but if
Yeah.
you guys haven't been following or you just started following my dad and you've never seen his energy coming off one of these events, you prepare for the videos that will come out of this.
Starting on Tuesday. Yes.
Yeah, absolutely.
But if you are watching us on any day, on any normal day, our schedule is Sunday through Friday at noon Pacific. Robert does it going live every single day. Ask Me Anything's on Saturday, where you get to ask him any question, because he is a certified multimillionaire. He's helped 67 people become millionaires. So here's your opportunity to ask him various questions about himself, about how to become a millionaire, and his techniques and his guidance and mentorship. Plus, we've got this podcast, the How Do You Know That podcast, every Wednesday starting at 1 p.m. Pacific. And then if you join the inner circle at roberthollis.com/join, we have our breakthrough sessions that take place Thursdays starting at 3 p.m. Pacific, where we go further into depth with you personally and help you get a breakthrough. Thank you, and shout out to our executive producer and visionary, Matt Hollis, Matthew, wow, bless you. Thank you for being our foundation. Of course, Robert,
Thank you, Craig.
appreciate you so very much. And thank you for joining us and taking time out of our busy schedules today. Please be good to yourself. Be cash. Until next time.
Thank you, everybody.
Love you guys. Talk to you soon.
Give them the full heart.